call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is there today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This school board will convene to a closed session this evening.
There's feedback on.
The school board will convene to closed session tonight. This evening to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin Statute 19.85 for N1 for a music choir teacher, high school science teacher, high school math teacher, special education aide, varsity volleyball coaches, reorganization, middle school girls basketball coach, and JV boys basketball coach. We are back to the microphones to see if we can get better sound quality on the videos. So if your voice doesn't project well, speak clearly so the microphone can pick us up. We will begin with the presentation by the math department. Mr. Schleiss.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kyle Schleiss, for those of you who haven't met me. I just completed my 4th year here at Sevastopol. I completed my 2nd master's this past spring at UW-Oshkosh, so I'm excited. Thank you. Thank you. It was very difficult with 2 little kids and a wife at home. So these are my 2 children, actually. So Charlie's the older one, giving Ellie a hug. She turned 11 months just a couple of weeks ago. So this was the picture we took before the wrestling match started. So
You teach you math already with the
yes. Well, actually, yeah. There's some math going on there, and that might actually be part of the presentation. So we'll see how this goes.
The reason he got the 2nd master's was so he can teach the dual credit courses through UW-Oshkosh for our students. So that was a benefit to the district here to accomplish that.
Yep. I will talk a little bit more about that later. I think from a timing aspect, I think technically on the first printed agenda, this part was in the discussion items, but kind of goes hand in hand with the departments. Are we okay with me doing the math materials recommendation and then getting into the department update?
Sure.
Okay. So the mathematics materials recommendation, moving forward. So I think the full timeline should have been in the board packet. I'll give a snapshot of some of the highlights of it, but the full timeline was in the board packet. How we developed the rubric and then the 3 recommendations for the elementary, the middle, and the high school. So this has actually been taking us over a year. We actually started in the spring of 21. I had conversations with Mr. Hilton and Mr. Mayer about creating this rubric, and I found out that there actually was a template created by the Staff Development and Curriculum Committee. So I looked at that template. We got some input from CISA 7. This was our team of elementary, middle, and high school teachers that put this rubric together. And then we had both Mr. Hilton and Mr. Mayer approve it prior to getting all of the samples and the materials starting in the spring of 21, but we got most of them last summer. And if you saw my room last summer, similar to everybody else who was moving around from room to room last summer as we were under construction, my room was filled with materials from all the various textbook companies from kindergarten through 12th grade. In fall of 2021, these were the main times that we do. So I do want to emphasize that even though it says first viewing, second viewing, and a third viewing, these were the ones where we had hours of time from professional development days where we sat down as a K-12 staff, and for 1 hour on October 1st, for 1 hour on October 20th, and for 1 hour for 4 hours on January 22nd, they looked at it. But in addition to that, time after school, time before school, time during prep time, like we individually did it whenever it fit into our schedules. But these were the times where the administration gave us the time to, as a collective group, sit down and go through the things. So it's not just these viewings, there were a whole bunch of viewings because there were sometimes 5, sometimes 8 different textbook samples to compare. I actually had this ready to go for, I think it was the March board meeting. It got moved back to April and it got moved back to June, so the recommendation is tonight. But this actually took us like over a year, about 15 months, to go through this process. The rubric itself, I provided a blank template in your board packet, but I think the overall themes of the rubric are that it emphasizes students over teachers. It emphasizes conceptual understanding over procedural. I'll talk more about that in the math department update in just a few minutes. And I think it balances hard copies with virtual. I think there's obviously some definite benefits to virtual learning, but as we experienced through COVID, it's not perfect either, just like anything else. So we wanted to balance that hard copy with virtual material. So that's kind of how the rubric got created. The K-5 evaluation was actually broken down into 2 segments, or pods, I think is the language that Mr. Hiltz uses. We had the kindergarten through 2nd grade was very close on Houghton Mifflin Harcourt's Into Math series and McGraw-Hill's Reveal series, but 3rd through 5th was a clear distinction with Houghton Mifflin Harcourt as the distinct winner. So we then talked as a K-5 staff, and we saw the value in making sure that we were consistent and we didn't have another transition from 2nd grade to 3rd grade. So we saw the value in having the K-5, the elementary evaluation being one series. So we decided to go with Into Math from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. The 6-8 recommendation was Connected Math Project, which is a conceptual focus. It's actually the current series that Deb and Tim both use. And it is a collection of unit books that bring them through the 6th grade through 8th grade standards. So that's actually what we currently use, and it is the recommendation for, actually I should give you guys that timeline. This is a 2022-2023 purchase, but it wouldn't be used until the fall of 23. We're currently in a 3-year commitment with math expressions for elementary. We are sticking with CMP, so it's not a change in the elementary. And then Larson Big Ideas is what we're going with for the high school. So that one actually was just updated in 2018, so it's only 4 years old, and there's a new copyright coming in 23, so there's value in us waiting before we make that purchase. And then yes, the high school recommendation is Big Ideas by Larson. This is the series that we use for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. They do now have series for pre-calc, calculus, and Providence stats. The biggest thing that I would say with the high school series is every introduction has some type of exploration, which is that conceptual focus before they get into the formulas and the number crunching, that kind of thing. So those are the recommendations. Any questions on the recommendations? Yes.
How do you feel about the inclusion of equity and diversity in the materials that you're recommending?
Yeah, one of the things that we looked at specifically were we looked at differentiation, and within differentiation you can hit different student backgrounds, not only ability levels but their backgrounds. So we did have the entire staff take a look at that. I would say I'm satisfied with all 3 of the recommendations, yes. Okay, yep.
The only thing, and I think you answered in your first 2 books, you picked them for consistency. I just, the one you're currently using in middle school, that is a decent bridge from the elementary to the high school.
Yeah, that's
part of all of this is consistency.
Yes,
continuation of
all 3 of them, no matter what the label is, all 3 of them, the focus is conceptual. And I think that's the key part, which I will talk a little bit more about in the math department update. But the focus is, conceptual learning before the procedural, because students simply remember it better. That's what the data shows.
So could you give me an example of conceptual learning in math?
Yeah. So here's where I could either give the really long answer or I could give the short, succinct answer. And I have materials ready to go for the long answer, so I'm hoping we can do the long answer, because if you haven't noticed it, I love teaching math. So I'll give the short, succinct answer, but I think you guys will get this. If everybody has pencil and paper with them, can you go ahead and start adding 3 to itself 500 times, please?
I did the homework.
Yeah. So the conceptual learning is at that level in elementary. Before they learn what multiplication is, they need to have a foundation of what addition is. So when they learn to add 3 to itself, 3 plus 3 is 6, and 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9, and so on. Well, if you add 3 to itself 500 times, technically you should be able to add 3 to itself 500 times to get the answer. and that's procedural. So if we really wanted to spend the time doing that tonight, we could do that, but then we won't be leaving until tomorrow. But it could be done. The conceptual understanding is, once you realize that 3 plus itself 500 times is simply multiplication, now you have a conceptual understanding that 3 times 500 gives you the same answer as 3 plus itself 500 times. That's conceptual learning. So we do that at elementary, we do that at middle school, we do that at high school, but that's an example that I think everybody can relate to. So yes, that was one of the examples from the department update, but I guess we can transition to that. Does that answer your question, Jerry?
Yeah. Well, that second question is, I saw this on TV, but it struck me is that the quote, the new math has gotten us to a point where parents in grade school can no longer come to their sons and daughters with doing their math.
Yeah, is that true? I think it's a misconception. I think some people might have a phobia of what they think the new math is. If we want the long history of what new math actually is, we can go all the way back to the 1950s with Sputnik. And when the Russians put Sputnik on the moon, there was a strong push for procedural learning. We need mathematicians, we need scientists, and we just want number crunchers. And it had some value for a while, but it left a lot of kids in the dark. So then there was, in the 1960s, was actually the first time that there was this new math, or at least this phrase, new math, and it was a heavy conceptual focus. Well, then in the 1980s, there was this pushback of, well, maybe the kids forgot that 2 plus 2 is actually 4. And maybe we need to get back to the skill and drill. And then there was this swing back to this procedural focus. Then in the 2010s, when Common Core came out, there was a balance. There's finally a balance. If you want the procedural, you can go and look at the state standards at grade levels, and there's literally thousands of standards from kindergarten through 12th grade if you're looking at the procedural standards. But whether you're looking at kindergarten or all the way up to calculus, there's 8 standards of mathematical practice. And those are the conceptual things that we're trying to teach students at every level. Perseverance in making sense of problems, modeling with mathematics, recognizing patterns and critiquing the reasoning of others. Like, those are the things that we're trying to really focus on, and then the procedural things happen along the way. So I do think parents can help their students with the new math. The math hasn't changed. 2 plus 2 is still 4 in base 10. If you want to change different bases, I can do that with the calculus students. And actually, we did 2 plus 1 for 30 minutes in the first day of calculus this past year. It was fantastic. If you guys want me to go into that, I definitely will. But 2 plus 2 is still 4 in base 10, and that's what we need to make sure parents can still help their kids with.
I think it questions what their math skill was to begin with as a parent. And I'll tell you, with my younger 2 kids, new math, it's different, and you may need to apply yourself. But once I actually liked it. But it was new to me, I had to learn it, but it wasn't rocket science, right? So I agree, there's some parents, like my wife, maybe never wanted to touch the math. And that's, so I'm just saying, some people love math, some people don't. And if you don't pay just a little bit of time to see the difference.
I think I'm ready when my grandkids would come, I would say, really?
So
And then Sienna told Bob she couldn't help him anymore because Poppy, her other friend, was better at math.
Yeah.
But it was time for me to grasp.
And I think that helps the
Different
kids. I mean, there's a lot of kids that grasp that the other way of teaching it a lot better than the old way, per se. And then once they learn the new way, it's much easier for them to comprehend both ways.
That is what the data shows.
So,
Oh, I missed the new math. It was coming right behind me. And we probably should never use the term new math because there have been so many iterations of new math. I don't know what new math means anymore.
Yeah. The first time that phrase was uttered was actually back in the 1960s.
I know, yeah, I was there.
For the math department update, just a little overview. It's this, you can see the math nerdiness of me coming out a little bit. So, conceptual is greater than procedural. So Application is greater than memorization. The students hear me say this all the time. I'd rather you guys be able to apply and critically think than simply memorize something, especially in today's society. If they need to look up the quadratic formula, you're going to be able to look it up. But can you apply it? Can you actually use it? Is a way higher level of thinking, and that's what we're trying to focus on. Elementary, one big update is from the summer of 2021, we rolled out the Grade 10 series as like a supplement to hitting those the students that needed intervention as well as extension beyond what the math expressions curriculum is doing. We actually will have a follow-up professional development with Greg Tang on August 17th this year. The middle and high school took advantage of the ESSER funds using IXL since the spring of 2022. It's something that Mr. V and I rolled into our homework policies in the spring. Got really good feedback from the students, and ESSER funds are going to cover that for this upcoming school year as well. Mr. Lickey was talking about this a little bit before. We do have some college credit opportunities at Sevastopol. We've had the NWTC math option for a long time, which is good. It's for students that might be going in to be a diesel mechanic, a CNC operator. Maybe they're going to get their feet wet in the medical field, something like that. And there's a course called mathematical reasoning where they can earn college credit for whatever degree they're pursuing. But recently, since 2018 when I started here, we do now have AP Calc AB as well as CAP Pre-Calc and CAP Prob and Stats. CAP is Cooperative Academic Partnership Program through UW Oshkosh. There's students, and there's 2 of them that actually just graduated, that walked out of here with 13 credits just from math. So that's a full semester's worth of college credits that they can earn right here as a high school student, which is fantastic.
Is it only UW Oshkosh that we're working with, or is
UW Oshkosh is who I report to and who oversees me, but CAP credits are, they're across the nation, they're well accepted.
okay.
If you're going to an Ivy League school, maybe not. But if, we do have a student going to an Ivy League school this year. It used to be just within the UW system, but I would say the last 5 to 6 years, it's gone to the private schools and it's gone out of state. So students can either earn college credits through CAP or through AP, which is really helpful for them saving money at the college level. And then the last thing I'll talk a little bit about is data-informed teaching that we do here at Sevastopol. So I already asked you guys the whole 3 plus itself 500 times. That's the idea behind conceptual understanding versus procedural. Procedurally, you should be able to add 3 to itself 500 times, but why would you do that once you understand the idea that repeated addition is just multiplication? This second question comes from a 5th grade standardized test from 2010. 90% of 5th graders got this question wrong. Because they would procedurally try to take 7,423 and subtract 92. And then they would add 3,568. And then they would add 92, and then they would subtract. If you don't understand the idea that those things cancel out, you're procedurally going to probably make a mistake along the way. And it's okay to make mistakes. But if this is an avoidable mistake because you realize that the 92s cancel out and the 7,423s cancel out, that's a straightforward question. That's the idea behind conceptual understanding being better than procedural. Should you be able to add those 5 numbers together? You absolutely should. But you should also be able to recognize the relationships, cancel them out, and arrive at your answer much more efficiently. Another example of conceptual understanding. So we talked about different bases earlier today. I'll give you the short, succinct answer rather than the long, thorough answer, but the long, thorough answer is what I do in calculus. So what day of the week will it be in 10 days from now? So I posed this question to the calculus students. I say, what's 1 plus 2? And everybody's confident, they know the answer. They say, it's 3, Mr. Schleiss. And I said, well, yeah, in base 10, because you have 10 fingers, and 1 plus 2 is indeed 3. I think we're all in agreement on that. Then I said, well, what about in base 8? And now their wheels are spinning because they don't even know what base 8 means, which is precisely the point. So in base 8, it's the same thing as if it was base 10, and you don't have any thumbs. So it's base 8, okay? Now, where does base 10 come from? Every time you look at your phone, every time you look at your calculator, you see 10 digits. Those 10 digits are 0, 1, 2, 3 through 9. 10 is not a digit, 10 is a 2-digit number. 0 through 9 make up the 10 digits. Okay, so then I asked them, what's 9 plus 1 in base 10? So you have 9, you don't have another digit that you can go to. Like from 8 plus 1 you had 9 available, from 7 plus 1 you had 8 available. With 9 plus 1, there's not a 10th digit available. So what do? You add a 1 and a 0. And a 1, 0 is a whole group of 10s with 0 left over. So 10 is a 2-digit number. It means one whole group of 10s with 0 left over. All right, then we go back to 2 plus 1 in base 8. 2 plus 1 in base 8 is still 3, because 3 exists. But what is 2 plus 1 in base 3? There's only 3 digits in base 3. 0, 1, and 2. So when you do 2 plus 1 in base 3, 3 doesn't exist. 1 plus 1, you had 2 available. But 2 plus 1, there's nothing available. So it actually becomes 1, 0. And now it's a whole group of 3s with 0 left over. That's the short, succinct answer. In calculus, I let them struggle with a lot more. It took us a half hour on the first day, but the conceptual understanding was so much better. So my question for you guys then is, what day of the week will it be in 10 days from now? Mr. Cat?
That's Sunday.
Sunday. Now what did you actually do to figure it out though?
Well, I just went 7 days of the week and I added 3.
So you just added to base 7. What you're doing there when you're asked what day of the week it is, like when am I ever going to use this stuff? The best answer for anybody who's going into computer programming is binary code. Binary code is base 2. You only see 0s and 1s. But everybody does this in their everyday life. What day of the week will it be in 10 days from now? I doubt that anybody's actually counting off the 10 days. They're probably counting off 3 because they're adding in base 7. Okay. The last one that I have is 2x plus 7 equals 3x plus 3. And I could algebraically subtract 2x from both sides. I could algebraically subtract 3 from both sides. And I think everybody would agree that the answer is x equals 4. Right? If you put 4 in there, you get 8 plus 7 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 equals 15. This is a balanced equation. This is a good thing in math. Okay.
Love it when things balance.
Right, exactly. Well, the conceptual understanding of this problem goes back to Greg Tang. And this is the series that we use at this is the supplemental series that we use at the elementary level that I still use this concept at the high school level. If I asked you guys to demonstrate what it means to represent the number 1 on a number line, how would you do that? If I asked you to represent the number 1 on a number line, how would you do that? What was that?
You start with 0?
Start with 0 on a number line. Yeah, most people would do that. So I actually had enough for everybody, but we tried this. All right, so here's 0. Everybody agrees this would be 0 on a number line? Like, that's pretty traditional? All right, so now how do we represent 1 on a number line?
1 tick to the right.
1 tick to the right?
Right. Positive.
Positive, because we went to the right. Okay, that's good. Anything else? Then you want a negative 1 on there? Okay.
Like I'm in a math quiz.
I just want you guys to explore this and get the concept.
Yeah.
How many people have done this sometime in their life?
Yeah.
Right, you fill in that dot. All right. Once you fill in that dot, you're saying that 1 is a location.
From 0.
Okay, from 0 is now a distance. When you say from 0, it's now a distance. How far is it from 0 to 1? 1. How far is it from 1 to 2? From 487 to 488? 1. So there's actually an infinite number of 1s on a number line, if it's a distance. If it's a location, that's the only 1. So how do you represent 2 on a number line? Is it a dot? Is it a location? Or is it twice as long as a 1? If it's twice as long as a 1, now we have something we can work with. Okay, before we did the algebra on this problem, this is kind of stupid, you didn't want to use your whiteboard, right? Use both of them, or actually all of them. So, do we know how long one of those x's are? Before you did the problem, do you know how long one of those x's are? No. All right, so what if it's a length? If 1 is a length and 2 is a length, what if x is a length? Well, there's 2 x's on this side. How long are both of the x's? The same size, right? So, because we're saying that those things are the same size, they are the same size, okay? All right, then we have plus 1, so plus 7. So plus 7 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are 7 ones. Is that the length of 2x plus 7? We okay with this? All right, how long is 3x plus 3?
Same length as that one.
It has to be. So I can go like this, and that other one has to be the same length. How many x's are on that side?
3.
The first x on that side is how long compared to this x? The same. So that's an x. The second one is the same? And there's a 3 at the end, right? So this one, and this one are all ones. So this cancels out, these cancel out. How long is an x? 4, right? That's conceptual understanding. If you think 1 is a dot on a number line, then it's just a whole bunch of locations that are not connected. But if you can think of it as a distance, you open up this whole new world of possibilities. And you can solve any algebraic equation that way, which is pretty cool. That's conceptual learning.
So what happens if I can't think conceptually, but I can think?
You need to show up like the second hour every day.
But there's lots of students like that. And I work with them, and we all work with them the same way. We open the door with these other ideas, but eventually once you know what the answer is and the procedure is, then just do that. But in order for you to get this in your long-term memory, this is a way more fulfilling way to get into your long-term memory than to do subtract 2x, subtract 2x, subtract 3, subtract 3, x equals 4. A, that's boring, and B, it's not going to be in your long-term memory as well. Elementary update, assuming that you guys do approve it, we recommended that Into Math by Houghton, Mifflin, and Harcourt, and then there's the Grid Tank update that I mentioned. Middle school is staying with Connected Math, high school is recommending Big Ideas, and like I said before, we're both using IXL since the spring of this year. I talked about this as well, so I kind of got these two things, these two presentations are overlapping obviously, but these are those 13 credits I was talking about that students can walk out of Sevastopol High School with, as well as taking AP Calculus AD. I actually do have one student this year that will be taking an independent study Calc 2 with me, so he has the potential, if he passes the Calc 2 test, to earn college credit that way.
Is he going to be a senior or junior?
He's a junior, so we got some work to do this senior year. Data informed teaching. If you guys haven't noticed it already, I love what I do. I love numbers. I love working with kids. So data is fun. There's qualitative as well as quantitative assessment. So even though I'm a numbers guy, I do still recognize the value in qualitative data. You know, Mr. Cack, you can probably relate to this. I think I called you at the beginning of this past school year asking for how the independent study was going for Ella. And you said something about tweaking the way that students were doing their homework to getting 2 responses. Like, that's an example of qualitative data where we reach out to students and parents, and then it changes the way that we teach. Formative is...
Change, by the way.
What's that?
Thanks for making that change, by the way.
You're very
You
welcome.
acted on it immediately. That was nice.
You're welcome.
And Ella liked it.
Formative is done on a continual basis, so this is what we do simply by reading body language, doing exit tickets, doing Kahoots and different things within the classroom. IXL is a great, has a diagnostic tool that actually challenges students at all levels. So when they start answering questions in this diagnostic tool, if they get a question correct, it pushes them with a more difficult question. If you're familiar with map testing, that it does that same kind of thing. And then as they start getting into where they're challenged, it narrows in on what their ability is. So I actually did this with my geometry and my pre-calc students this year, and it's amazing how it zeroes in the geometry students to geometry, and it'll narrow in the pre-calc students to trigonometry. We use ACT data. We actually do a data retrieval where we go question by question and look at strengths and weaknesses of our students, which then influence how we teach. The number one thing, and this is where I think like English and math overlap. In the math section of the ACT, if a question was less than 4 sentences long, the students had a higher success rate of answering them correctly than if it was 4 sentences or longer. My gut is telling me that that might be either, if it was more than 4 sentences, either they didn't want to read it, or they maybe were just good test takers and said, I'm not going to waste my time reading that when I can answer other questions and get them correct. Or they got bogged down in the information. So that one we need to take a deeper dive to see what's going on there. But as the questions got longer, the students answered them correctly less, which is not good. SLO data, so this is what we use in our teacher evaluation, so it's student learning objectives, and that comes from IXL, it comes from Zello, it comes from practice ACT tests, which then drive how each student is doing, which kind of give us an indicator of if we're doing the right things as well in the classroom. So, questions for me?
So on a national basis, what's happening in math? Because you hear that, you know, in the 60s and 70s, we were number 3 or 4 in the world in math, and now we're right below Ecuador or someplace like that.
Yeah.
And so critics would say, well, this is because you've gone away from math. And you know, as I got older, I taught math, actually.
Okay.
I taught math. I was not a math teacher, okay? There's a difference there.
Admitting it, huh?
Oh, yeah, I was a biology person, and they needed somebody to go down and teach math, so I taught, and it was a new math coming in, and I just went bonkers. I went back through the book and I said, it was a girl's class. I'm going to teach you the right way to do math, okay? Which is probably not the wrong way to do math, but neither here nor there. But, you know, what does the data show as we constantly are doing different ways of teaching math? There has to be a right way eventually, but maybe we haven't found it, maybe this is it. I mean, the man on the street will go, what do you have when you're teaching kids? I go to McDonald's. This is a true story for me. I think the bill was $1.37. I pulled out 17 cents. No, I pulled out enough to get me 75 cents in change. After it was bringing into the cash register, and I gave $2 and then some change to run. And there was panic. You can't do that. I already got it in the computer, in the cash register. You know, like, so I guess some simple things of life people don't seem to be picking up anymore, or am I just being a nasty old man?
If I may, related to this, in your looking at the books, I love your positive energy on math, by the way, is there anything coming out from all these vendors and these books and your research? Because I too recognize that America is falling way behind. But I also don't hear anybody openly that is doing anything about it. And that's where I would like to think that's where you're going is,
Yes.
and we've done a lot of reviews, and your review seems very thorough. I appreciate how you explain that. But are any of these books, does any, you know, did you stumble across any of it when you're looking at all these books and some guy or gal was willing to stand up and say, this would benefit the nation to start driving us in this direction? Or no, it's just more books, look at the data and move on.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that stood out as I reached out to the textbook companies, and I will say it's the digital push. There were some companies that didn't send us materials. I have good materials here if you guys wanted to see what we're recommending. But some of them are pushing 100% virtual. 100% everything is online. Here's a student access code. And as a department, we just fundamentally disagree with that. We do think there's value in balancing the textbook hard copy, look up a formula, a definition of whatever, do some number crunching, with the added things that you can get online, but to completely replace it all, I don't think we're there yet. And I think as we just went through this whole COVID thing, I don't think virtual learning is the solution. I really don't. Are there some good things to it? Absolutely. Is it the answer? I don't. So where are we going with this? I can't change the world, Jerry. But what I can do, and I've heard this from a very wise man, we don't need to name names, but there was a seashore, and there were a whole bunch of starfish on that seashore. Sound good? And while I can't maybe make a difference for every one of the starfish by throwing them back in the water, I can make a difference for the ones that I do. And I would hope that Caden, I would hope that Carter, I would hope that people in this room that I've taught your either kids or grandkids would say that there is a love for math. There's a passion that they now have for math that they didn't have before. And I think if we have more of that, we can make a difference nationwide. I'm going to try to do the best I can here in Sevastopol, and that's all I can do. And that's all we can do as an entire department. But we're going to make a difference for the ones that we can.
You certainly have the option.
That's the best answer right there. No, you just said it. It is you one at a time. And all three of my kids are passionate about math, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I think you made a great point about the ACT test, which goes back to the core things of reading, writing, and wisdom. So
Yep,
that's all
the 3 R's.
Help with spelling.
All right, any other questions for me?
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna take a motion to move item B under new business, the math curriculum materials approval. We're gonna move that forward, so if someone would move that item forward.
I move to move agenda item B in new business to before consent agenda.
Second.
Question or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So now we are at the point of a motion to approve or otherwise for the recommendations that Mr. Slice made.
I would move to approve the math curriculum materials as presented.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, we don't have any guests, so I presume there are no guests wishing to comment. Are there any items anyone wishes to have removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved by consent. I'm just going to mention these donations so that they're on the film because they're generous donations from our community. We want people to know about them. The MMG Foundation gave $2,000 for DI. JP Express Pride Pumps gave $275.40 for DI. The Gilbane Building Company made a donation of $200 for the Echo Lab. ERA Star Realty, $75 for senior night. Sevastopol Education Foundation, $1,000 for DI. Leaf and Amy Lottenbach, $200 for DI. Pack and Ship, $50 for DI. Peninsula Pacers, $600 for DI. The Pinkert Law Firm, $200 for DI. Mr. and Mrs. George Evenson, $25 for the Echo Lab. The Quiet Side Enterprises, $50 for senior night. Sunny Point Landscape, $100 for senior night. Culver's, there was a Culver's share night for FFA of $146. Day Electronics of $200 for senior night. Door County Co-op, $25 for DI. Steve and Tammy Estes, $350 for senior night, and the Jacksonport Area Business Association, $750 for band and choir. Thank you to all those individuals and community groups for the donations. We'll move to the administrator's reports, then we begin with Mr. Hiltz.
Thank you very much. The one thing that I would like to draw some attention to is just to highlight the rankings that I put in the report. U.S. News and World Report, based on their rankings, has us in the top 10% in the state of Wisconsin. But rather than going ahead and doing a big banner or anything like that, I thought just something simple like this, a mock-up of a magazine cover, and we display that in the office so people notice that when they come in. If, however, we continue to get those kinds of accolades, then we'll find some way that we can do a display.
Can you put that out on your electronic board, though? I mean, if you don't
Does the electronic
Pat yourself on the
The
back.
electronic board, the internal computer is not working, but the sign company is looking for a computer to fix it. The original company who supplied that sign is out of business. So, and that was only 2015 they installed that one?
Right, and they went out of
7 years
business, what was
ago,
it,
I think. So
2018?
we're hoping the sign company that's been helping us with other signage around here can help us with that.
So I did also want to share a quick story. I was at a professional development session this week. It was put on by the company that we went with, Freckle and Lililo, if you recall. We're using that to try and close some of the gaps for our elementary students. And I happened to sit down next to a woman who has a camper at a site up here, and she was talking about a Facebook page when she found out that I was here at Sevastopol. She said, "Oh, I have to tell you that there was somebody who was talking about moving to the area, and they had inquired about what district would be a good district to send their students to. They have a student who's got some special education needs, and they were just wondering." And a number of people, I think she said 7, very quickly replied, not just for special education needs, but for any needs. Sevastopol is the district that you want to choose. Definitely for the special education, but across the board, they were saying that this is the district that you want to choose. So I kind of tie that in with the rankings. The rankings are based on data, statistics, those kinds of things, but that anecdotal stuff supports the things that are going on there. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer? We won't,
I was actually expecting that.
we won't make you do a report tonight. Mr. Hiltz will give you the lowdown on how to do that for next month. Is there anything you want to say to us, though?
It's just an honor to be a part of the Sevastopol School District, and the opportunity to serve here is something that's beyond exciting, and I just feel overwhelmed with the tremendous privilege and honor to be a part of such a great school district and a committed group of people who are invested in the development of your young people. It's an incredible honor to be here.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Does anyone have questions they want to direct on the athletic director's report or the people talented report? If there aren't any, we'll move to the superintendent's report.
I have 3 items in my report. The first is the technical corrections on policies that came out of the policy committee. You can see listed there, and they'll be updated after this meeting. And then I'm serving on the Door County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We have a facilitator, Amanda Shu from NWTC. We're planning on meeting bi-monthly for a while here. We figured we have to meet that often. The goal is to come up with some action items. And who will carry out the action items has not been decided yet. The group felt that whoever organization is the best at carrying it out for the county should carry it out. But I know as this school district and multiple school districts in the county, we all report back to boards on what we're going to do. So that's something you guys maybe should weigh in on the future of that as well. And then we have an old piano and 3 clavinovas we're trying to sell. And we're going to try to sell them to our musical students at a donated rate because they need work, and so I don't want to stick someone with 11. They're good, they're really great, we became them ourselves, or they were.
Needs more.
Right, so, but it's a cheap way of someone getting a instrument, so that's my 3 items to report on. But yeah, the DEI group is, I can't remember, it's next Wednesday or the following Wednesday, where they pick Wednesday afternoons. So it's just interesting to participate in that.
Maybe we should agenda that for next month, just to hear what's happening. And I guess my concern would be that the school, they don't arbitrarily try to assign action items to school districts.
Yeah, they can't bind this because you're the group that binds it. Like they may have an outcome a year from now that they say, hey, the schools are best carrying it out, and we'd have to philosophically and financially be able to support that mission. Yeah.
So we'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
Discussion. I have a couple things I want to mention. I will do a Facebook post, Mr. Hiltz, on that. I'm waiting until school was out though and get through all of the many posts that are out there. The Blue Ribbon Award that was the National Blue Ribbon Award that was received in 2015 has moved from the high school hallway. Audrey Off, who's a graduate here, reframed it, made it look real nice. It's back in the corner there. Did you all see the elementary end of the year video?
Yes, I thought it was excellent.
What was this again?
The end of the year video,
Oh, yeah.
The superintendent went,
No, I was trying to get to it.
if you're, it's worth having a Facebook page only to look at the school stuff.
It was on the, it was an email sent to us too.
With a link in.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would encourage you, if you don't have a Facebook account, to get one, just to look at the school stuff, because you will see, it will connect you to the school in so many different ways to see. You'll see Mrs. LeClaire teaching her Foods 2 class to decorate cakes and how to cut tomatoes. You'll see some science updates. You'll see math updates. It's just, the staff puts out some really great stuff on there.
Well, they also post all the job postings, so you guys are probably networking with other people too, so share it.
The spring was busy with the sports and everything, and I just want to say it was not easy for the athletes to participate in the weather. It was not easy for the athletic director, I'm sure, to organize all of that, but everybody got through it. They did a great job, and now the town park is always full of the Mighty Pioneers games every night of the week, so that's great. The senior awards presentation was in here, and that's where the kids got their awards and scholarships, and they're all well-deserving, and some kids, you know, you just expect they're going to get those scholarships, they're going to get those awards because they're at the top of the class. But there were some kids that got awards or scholarships that they weren't at the top of the class. They weren't the National Honor Society kids, they weren't the Chords kids. They got awards or scholarships, and those were the most uplifting to watch because they were surprised and so proud, and their parents were so proud. So if you have a chance to go to that sometime, you should. In the last 55 years, the high school diploma has not changed. It's the same. It's signed. It has a rendition of the 1924 school and the 1965 school over here, so I'm just pointing this out. I don't know what our supply of these is, but if we're getting low, we might want to change that.
Well, it's been changed. This year's got the new picture.
Oh, it does have a new picture. Okay, great, 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 great.
Now, the diploma part is the same.
And a little history for you. Classes used to pick a color. They were not red and black. Mine was blue. My husband was silver and blue. It was all interesting stuff. So that's it for me.
How did you go digging for your?
The new math, you can't do that.
Okay, see, I didn't notice the new picture in the diploma, but it's great.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Okay, committee reports. Policy committee,
We met last week before.
June 6th.
June 6th.
Yeah, that's a week before. Yeah. And we had a whole bunch of, the lady came up and went through dozens and dozens of policies. We had before the ones that are coming out. We don't have disagreement. I don't have disagreement with all the policies. We take that to your legal counsel whether or not the grievance. The person, right now, where it said if a teacher grieves, one of the steps is you get an outside arbitrator or outside hearing officer or something like that. And that was always brought up, you don't take that stuff outside the organization, and it ends up with the CEO as the final determining person. Or if you want to, you can make the word correct. But, so, you were going to,
I sent it to Mary Gerbic and she's reviewing it.
for the most part, we agree with everything that was.
We have a number that are coming tonight, which is technical changes, but we will have more coming soon, and then another installment a little bit later. So lots of changes going on.
Okay, athletic committee.
We did not meet on, we were supposed to meet on the 9th, and something happened that we were unable to, but Brooke is working with the park. They have made some improvements to the park. Light bulbs are now updated, which is good. There's still things they're working through.
Yeah, I had something come up, so thanks for that. But yeah, but Brooke continues to push us, she's real active, I think, if you read her report. And so we were just talking about, you know, where the punch list is on the phase 1 of track, and you kind of mentioned that here, that it continues on. And she's working with the town on various things to continue improving, and so that's what those, we would have had more to report, but I couldn't make a meeting happen, so we'll probably get rescheduled quite rather quickly.
You're going to reschedule them, and one topic you're going to look at is academic and athletic and behavioral eligibility for high school.
Yeah.
Right.
The quota.
Quota, right.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
There were a couple of agenda items.
And I'd recommend waiting until after the 1st of July, and then have Mr. Schaefer join that discussion.
No, it's the 16th of June, that's probably a good opportunity.
Okay. Budget report?
Budget report. Well, we're on pace with our revenue. Carl and I sat down with that today. In fact, we're going to have a little bit more revenue than estimated, maybe by $146,000. Our expenses will be close to what we budgeted, that's good. Jerry, last month you asked about fuel. We had a big discussion a couple of times as we set the budget for next year. We budgeted $32,000 this last year for fuel for driving the buses and the vans, and we've spent $41,297 at this point, plus we'll have a little bit of May and June to pay for, so we're going to be under budget in that area because of the cost of fuel the last few months. And then
Over, but.
yeah, we're gonna be short, right? Our revenues will be short.
You said under budget.
No, we under budgeted what we actually are
Right.
spending.
Under budget.
We under budgeted what we planned on spending.
We overspent.
I
Well,
wouldn't say we
we
overspent,
had to fill
but
the
we had
bus
to.
with fuel.
I get it, I'm just saying, that.
Right.
So it's less confusing if you overspent.
When you did the
Always
budget,
like-
you
in
did not
Melissa's
foresee
report, I
the
looked up that
$5
word.
We did not see the gas going up,
Well, who did?
Who did? yeah.
Right.
not us, right?
But
Just telling you where we're at.
It's not anybody's fault, I'm just saying.
And that's the issue that we're having with setting the budget now. Where are prices gonna be for the next school year? We don't know, but you try to get as close as you can, and we're at we're at $5.55 for diesel right now. Do you budget for $600 or $6 a gallon? Yeah. We're putting a number in there and hoping for the best.
At first, we haven't even started to see what the diesel problems are going to be.
And all our buses are diesel.
You mean I didn't have any diesel?
I would run the exercise and.
The new bus better be solar powered.
Right, kids have to push it.
Yeah,
Fred Flintstone.
Freddie Flintstone.
I don't know,
We're going back to the
There was
horse,
something else
to
I was gonna say
the,
about
to the horse car.
but just so you know, a bus, we average 10 miles a gallon for a bus, so basically.
They're not good.
Yeah, no, not good, no. A lot of starting and stopping, a lot of idle time in the parking lot, but you gotta stay warm and put their kids on, so that's. Anything else, Carl, I don't plan on the budget, but that's something I thought.
Just that next month, we will have the preliminary budget available to you. We don't actually approve the budget till October, but we'll have a preliminary budget for the next fiscal year next month.
And the financial year ends June 30th, however, you have until July 30th to transfer money from Fund 10 into Fund 46 or hopefully 73. So we'll talk about Fund 73 a little bit from now, but those will be actions. And what we'll do is we'll meet with Dave, because he's the treasurer, in early July, and then we'll be ready for the July board meeting to make recommendations for transferring those funds. Fund 46 are maintenance, that includes our items in our 10-year maintenance plan, and Fund 73 is post-retirement benefits, which we don't have a Fund 73 yet, but that's coming up later in the meeting, so.
Anything else on budget or questions on budget? There aren't, we can move to the facilities report.
We had a meeting about the greenhouse last Thursday. Jeff and Dick were there. You guys want to take a stab at explaining that meeting?
Yeah, I guess this is something new, the greenhouse company that constructed it had never run into it before, about acrylic panels, plastic panels in the ceiling, and lo and behold, the building code states that 40% of that ceiling has to be non-plastic material. So it leaves you a couple, it leaves you two choices, glass or some type of opaque, we never talked about fiberglass, but, so the long and short of it is, during our meeting, it was kind of a pass the bag along from the architect to the constructor, and I think, we were all in agreement that the school district of Sevastopol was not going to be left holding the bag.
That was said at least twice.
By us or
No,
by?
no, by them,
by them.
by Bray, Byron.
So they had
That was good.
So we won't be, so it comes down to some things that maybe we possibly can get a variance on this particular issue, maybe not. And then the greenhouse company has to see whether or not they can retrofit glass into required 40% of the roof area. So it's ongoing.
Richard, since you know greenhouse, what's the difference between our greenhouse and Sturgeon Bay's greenhouse?
That's a good question, because apparently their greenhouse does not have a access from the school directly into the greenhouse. They have to access it from the outside to get into it. Now, to me, that would be a hindrance if you had to go out, if you had a fire for some reason inside the greenhouse and you had two small access doors to exit it, instead of we have an open 8-foot opening at least to. So building code is, it's the first time I've ever heard of it.
But I think you told me that. I drove past Sturgeon Bay's, and it's right next to.
But there's no access from the school directly.
So they go outside.
You got to go outside the school.
So
then
when
back
it's
into the
10
greenhouse.
below 0, they walk outside to get to them.
Yep.
Well, it's a short
With code, it doesn't matter, right? So what you're saying is, you guys have all talked, it has been realized, in fact, regardless of how people build stuff, other inspectors may not catch it. So it doesn't matter what other buildings are. Our code inspector, and it's been verified, in that meeting you verified that, in fact, the code is correct. So now, what are they recommending to fix? I mean, have they done that already, or, because now it's easy.
Yeah, it's two choices. Is that the greenhouse company, and I guess we agreed that we wouldn't find it acceptable to put opaque metal panels in the roof of the greenhouse. So, in looking at the greenhouse, in my experience, is that that greenhouse structure cannot support glass panels. So, the greenhouse company is going to have to put supports in there that will support glass panels.
If I may, why not put metal panels in 40%? Why not?
Why not? Because it's, well, for one,
You can tell me there's not enough light? That's my question, right? It's a greenhouse. That somebody else has met that code, and the light comes in the side, right? You tell me there's not enough light to grow in there.
I think you made a great assumption there.
I mean,
That somebody else has met that code.
well,
It's always the first person.
Yeah, everyone in that meeting said they've never run across.
Ran across this before.
An issue.
I guess I compare it to 20 people speeding and we got pulled over, so we got the ticket, right? And it doesn't matter if everyone else can do it that way, we got to do it this way. But to answer your question, we would like it clear to get more light in there to grow our plants. And so.
I mean, it's a big building, and it's a very tall roof.
To me, the problem
just-
is
it's a
totally
fair
the
question.
architects.
Yeah.
The architect is the one who's supposed to make sure, in broad lines, to make sure that you are meeting all the state and federal codes and.
Well, remember, we're past the problem, right? They said in that meeting, the school is not, they reckon it's their problem, and they're gonna bring a solution. I was just trying to help what the solution is do we have to have glass? And then, so it's tempered glass, so it doesn't break, because if glass falls down in the winter, it breaks, that would be a safety issue. Metal wouldn't be. And it's a very tall roof, and that's why I was just asking the question, wouldn't it give enough light to grow stuff in there?
Could you do a combination of the two? I mean, does that?
It's over to you guys, I was just curious.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna, that's what
in an
what they're gonna
instructional,
come back with.
yeah.
far now.
An instructional greenhouse or a research greenhouse, they would never be even considered. University would never even, I mean, 32 years I spent, we would never even consider putting opaque panels in a greenhouse, a research greenhouse. And I guess I wouldn't consider putting it in an instructional greenhouse either, so that's, you know.
Not your opinion, I understand, but I'm just saying when codes change and we now have to live under the current code that we got pulled over for speeding and let's get a solution and they're gonna fix it and I just,
And
let's
they,
not drag this out
so,
for 6 months, I mean.
so they've
two
got to come
options.
back with a solution.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
they'll come back. So that's long and short.
Yeah, the other issue is them maybe possibly getting there and talk to the building inspector, not building inspector, but the plan examiner, and possibly his boss to see if there's a workaround or if there's a
So there's wiggle
do
room
a
yet.
variance.
Well, yeah, they can always, it depends on.
You just gotta step the ladder, all that's
Up the ladder, how far you get up to state.
And that variance doesn't affect our insurance at all. So that,
Not if they give you a variance.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, more comments?
Anything else on the building?
The air handler in the high school gym is going to be replaced in July. Also, July, the high school lockers are being tore out and new ones put in because as that this year's 7th grade, next year's 8th grade becomes freshman, we need more lockers instead of larger. And on the northwest here, you can see the sidewalk coming out of the steps coming out of the 1965 gym are getting connected to the sidewalk. And where the drain by the music office comes down, it was landing in the sidewalk and making that real slippery. They took a cement cake out and then put a drain underneath it so it doesn't do that. So that's the building. There's probably something else too, but I don't know. Those are the large things.
In the field project?
They started pouring footings of cement this week and they got the rebar, they're working on that. So that was Monday in the rain, Tuesday they did it, and it's progressing.
Any questions on either of those?
is there a schedule on that project on there right now and when is it due to be complete?
Yeah, there's a schedule and it's in August, it's supposed to all be done. They said that raw materials are all okay right now.
Awesome, okay.
Move to old business and the 2021-22 school operations COVID.
Just want to keep COVID on there because it's not gone away. We do have Summit Labs coming next year for the same amount of testing. And we do have the ESSER funds, which we're paying for using to keep the nurse full-time through next year. So it's still there.
Fund 73.
I'm going to turn over to Carl. The Fund 73 is for our post-employment retirement benefits. As we have people retiring, they have money coming to them that they've earned over their long career here. And we want to get set up financially to make sure we can support what people are earning now in the future because otherwise we could end up upside down. So go ahead, Carl, you can tell what KBC and
Okay. Last month when I wasn't here, I was at the spring conference and sat in on a session about Fund 73. And what it is, Fund 73 is a trust fund that is set up that can only be used for post-employment benefits that have been earned by your employees. And the money is put into a designated fund that is put into an investment company. When your members, so as of right now, our members get a lump sum, teachers get a lump sum from the district to go towards their insurance. They pay for the rest. When they pay that money to us, we put it in the general fund right now because we're paying the premiums out of our general fund budget. If we go with the Fund 73, that money that we get from them goes directly into the Fund 73. Payments that we make to the premiums will come out of Fund 73 for our retirees. We have to do the board has to approve a resolution to establish it. With that resolution, we have to send a report to DPI every year stating what is happening with our Fund 73, and it is also a portion that has to be part of our audit, that the auditors have to audit our Fund 73, and that report also goes to DPI. Now, it's not any, nothing in it. The auditors are here every year, so it's nothing in addition. They'll just do that with part of our regular audit. But then you also have to, there's different guidelines that have to be met, different coding that you have to do with this. That will all be on my end. But the company that put the, well, DPI put the presentation on, this key benefit concepts, they do our actuarial and our information as far as what our liability is for our OP or for our other post-employment benefits. We have to have, for our audits, we have to have either table upgrades or a full actuarial study done every other year, depending upon which year, what you have to have done. Key benefits, concepts, this company knows about Fund 73, they've done it many times, and they have offered, at a cost obviously, to basically do the whole project for us to get it all set up. So they have the investment company that they use, which comes out of CISA 6. They have their lawyers, they have their people there that can set up all the paperwork. They will do a presentation for you to kind of give you a better idea of what a Fund 73 is. They'll take it from start to finish. So that way we know it's done properly, it's done to DPI standards, and it just, we know it'll be done correctly. So Mr. Looking and I are proposing that we have key benefits concepts, do the whole thing, set it up for us correctly, and that way we know it's done right. Anything to add to that?
That's, no, you got it all.
So Fund 73 is above and beyond the pension plan?
What's that?
That's above and beyond the pension plan?
Yes, in our employee handbook, we have a clause in there that if you're here a certain number of years, you get money in retirement to put towards your insurance. Is it 15 years for a teacher and 20 for support?
It's 20 years, you have to be here 20 years. We switched, a few years back, the board switched, you have to be here 20 years. For teacher, you have to be over the age of 57. For support staff, you have to be over the age of 62. You can stay on right now you can stay on the only option you have is stay on the districts in charge. And that's health, dental, and vision. Teachers receive $14,500 per year towards the premiums. Support staff stays on the same percentage of, district pays 88%, member pays 12%. Support staff can only be on it for 3 years. Teacher can add an additional year with, if they have sick leave, if they have days on the books, to sell back at $100 a day, not to exceed 120 days, towards a 4th year of insurance. We were possibly looking at changing that to maybe include an HRA. We got to get more information on that to give the members a little bit more flexibility.
So what's the upfront cost, what's the maintenance cost, and what's the downside?
For
key benefits to set this all up?
It'll be between $4,650 and $6,050, depending on how much work they have to do.
And then ongoing?
None for ongoing. Once it's set up, it's done.
It's like because we have all these other funds that we manage.
Right.
So.
I mean, it's just a matter of, it won't cost us any additional money on our audit because it'll be right with the regular audit. Once it's set up, it goes, just like our Fund 46. Once that was set up, it just continues on. We put money into it, take money out of it. You just have to make sure that you're only using it for post-employment benefits. That's the only thing that money could be used for.
Are there any negatives? Are there any cons to entering into it?
That money that you have in there, say you are not, or you change your policy. Say, for instance, the board decides we can't afford it, we're not going to do post-employment benefits anymore. Any money you have in there, then you have to go through a whole process to undesignate that money from post-employment benefits, and it can be a very long, drawn-out process. That would be your...
You pay someone $6,000 to do it?
What's that?
So, yeah, I think that's, as long as, so, I mean, there's two things, right? One is setting up Fund 73.
Right.
The other issue to me is a full review of post-employment benefits. What's competitive in today's market, and do we need to change anything that we're doing? Because they talked about some evaluations in here. Is that part, do they help us with that?
They already do that. They've already done, we already have a report from them for actually to know what our liabilities and all that is.
I don't know if that's Dave's question. Are you asking if like the 14.5 a year for 3 years is competitive or not?
Well, my question is,
That's a different show.
well, that was my act. There's two parts. One is, as long as we have post-employment, I think we need to set up the Fund 73. It makes sense. And the day we go away with that, then, yeah, that's a
and you cross that
The
bridge.
other con is you can't use that money somewhere else.
Right.
But a good running organization should not use that money somewhere else.
Well,
So
Well, I
it's,
would see it as a positive, that
Yes.
it's in there and he doesn't have to
right,
worry
because that's
about
how you
where.
get retired for California is.
and if you know, in 2024, we have 4 teachers retiring. And we have a custodian retiring this December, we have one retiring in August, we have another custodian a year from now, so all of a sudden, we're gonna end up with 7, 8 people expecting money, which they've earned through the agreement, and so you better put that money aside now, so you can pay those people appropriately. There was one particular district, I'm not gonna say where it is, it's far away from here, but they said, all right, we're not gonna pay you as much now, but we'll pay you when you retire. And then all of a sudden, Act 10 hit, and they had like 15 people say we're retiring, and they didn't have the funds to pay them all, and there was big problems. And they changed the handbook, immediately saying we're not gonna do that benefit anymore, and then the staff that was still remaining, who'd been there for 15, 20, 25 years, were always expecting that at the end, and all of a sudden it got pulled out from underneath them. So you gotta be careful with your, if we moved that 14.5, people get very excited and say, hey, I was looking forward to that for 15 years, and now I had 10 years to go to retirement, now you're pulling that away. So we're better off putting some money in 73, so it's there for that rainy day when the time comes to pay the people that
I
earn
agree,
it.
there's two
Yeah.
issues, and I
Yeah.
just want to.
So that's what scares
So I
me.
guess the second issue is, I would personally recommend setting up the Fund 73 and paying this money so it's right and all the legal stuff is right, I agree with. Secondarily, I'd like to make sure we review that more often, because we very, very seldom review that.
It's been, it's
in the
that
employee
common,
handbook
Dave,
every
it's
year.
been that way since I've been here for 5 years, and nothing's ever been, it's never changed. So.
Well, and I'll tell you,
Not saying
it doesn't
it
mean
needs
it
to
goes
change,
up,
but-
it means what's competitive in the market, because, you know, the education was far more transient, people are coming and moving all the time, so are we trying to be more competitive in current salary?
So if I'm 65 and I retire, I still get the $14,000 even though I'm getting on Medicare?
Yes, for supplemental.
If you
Yes,
then use
yes,
it for
because you can use our insurance as a supplemental.
All right, that leads me to the next question. So you are allowed, if you retire from here at 60, at 57, or 62,
Mhm.
to use your 14,000 to be on our health insurance plan?
Yes.
And
See,
that's where Carl's,
Why would you want to do that?
What if they retire at 55?
I don't care, you're 55.
What
So
you
why do you
think
want to
they'll get
take, why do you want to have the older age group people get on your health plan, which will have much higher possibilities of messing up your health plan because you're self-funded, as opposed to a 27-year-old?
there's 3 reasons for that. One is, that's why Carl was talking about giving them some options with HRA, so we could maybe have some of those people get off our plan. But the reasons we did it was to promote being here a long time, so they wouldn't jump ship on us, so it's a benefit for those folks. And probably it started with negotiations back in the early 2000s, and it's just stuck in there.
But wouldn't you, I know you would be better off. Wouldn't you be better off to say, okay, you're 62 and you retire, here's a check for $14,500, we're gonna hold for you, you give us your premium statements from your insurance company. But you don't want them on your health plan.
well, and
Okay,
that's.
But that was negotiations, and if you change that, and you can change the employee handbook anytime you put it on the agenda. If you did that, you'd have mutiny though for those people that are, hey, been planning on that for a long time. People
Well,
are-
yeah, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
You have-
I'm not sure that's the case.
We have
Number
a
one is,
situation-
we have bills we have to pay. So Fund 73 reduces the liability that we get in a bad situation. So I think there's two discussions. One is the Fund 73, I recommend we do that, because we have agreed to bills we must pay, no matter what you and I think. But separately, at a different time, maybe a new agenda item at some point, is let's revisit that in today's competitive world, and then budgets are changing and gas prices are through the roof. We should always question where we're spending our money.
Well, and that's the importance of this key benefit concept study.
Well, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Is that what this is?
That's
No,
not
no.
what this is, just,
This is just setting up funds.
that is just
setting it
their,
up.
that is
That's
just,
not doing the work.
no, that is just their proposal for saying, we will set up the Fund 73 ticket. As far as the actuarial study in that has already been done. I already have that, so I can give that to the auditors, I already sent that to the auditors for this past year. That is done every year. So when they're talking about that stuff, or the actuarial and that's already done, we've already paid for that. It
But
has
if
to
we're
be
looking
done.
at an HRA,
If we're looking at an HRA, they will also help
Assist
us,
us.
you know,
Yeah.
which gives people additional options.
right,
Additional options would help the district with having aging people on our
yeah,
If we do
right.
group, absolutely.
How does that
That data
Explain that to me.
at some future.
How does having aging people in your health plan help your health plan?
It doesn't,
It
but
was
if
agreed
the
to
options
in
to
the
get
past.
off it, then it does help because they get off of it.
It was
Right, I think you should do anything, but they can't be on your health plan. You can have a separate plan.
Okay, but Jerry, you can't go changing, you can do whatever you want with the handbook, but I would recommend changing that handbook until you
Right.
really, you're gonna, anyone over 40 on staff's gonna be steamed if they see that, they've been here for 10, 15 years.
Well, you're not denying health insurance.
You're taking away a benefit,
No,
you're
you're not.
changing it.
You're just paying a premium.
Well, who's gonna pay it?
Okay, but then they gotta go get their insurance someplace else.
He's gotta pay it, somebody's gotta pay it. I mean, I wanna have health insurance.
I'm saying the 14,500 is a, that's nothing. I have no problem with the 14,500.
Yeah.
But if they're if you forcing them into your own health plan, the
Then you're-
high-risk population,
Yes.
it's gonna cost you a lot more than
Every time we renew
14,500.
insurance, they do an assessment of our claims.
Well, that's equitable.
And if we have more claims, it goes up. If we have less claims, it goes down. He's correct, that's how it works.
That's right, that's
That's
right.
how health insurance works, yeah.
I know, but
But
you
we
don't.
can't manipulate that.
Yes, you can, by not allowing them to join your health plan.
Okay,
But the problem is
And that's
that,
the change in the handbook that,
We could expect a higher.
here's a little history.
Yeah, I don't
This
get that.
district used
A
to
lot
be
of
with
people-
WEAC, with,
Let's get that.
what was that insurance?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we used to be
That
with,
means over benefits, yeah.
Post-employment.
Post-employment benefits.
And nobody gets the post-employment benefits.
Yeah.
Nobody has rent-free pension plans anymore.
You don't realize how lucky you are being an
Yeah.
engineer.
I mean, you were.
okay, let
Wait,
me
two issues.
explain.
That's a big discussion
Let
because
me tell you what happened. This district used to be with WEAC, which was like the catalog of insurance. It was through,
And they're just now going out of business.
it was through
through the unions.
the union.
Physicians.
This district changed, and it caused great consternation among the staff.
But we are still here.
A lot of consternation among the staff. Then, I wish I could remember why it had to be this way, but it was sometime after 2010. This district used to pay a long-term care benefit to people. And we had to quit doing it. I don't, do you remember why, Sue? It
Oh, yeah.
had something to do with our insurance premiums.
Right, financing, and
So benefit change, no point.
And it was a benefit change, and it again created great consternation. So what we're gonna do, and we don't, staff, they wanna feel,
Yeah. I mean,
they want to feel secure and comfortable. So before we make any changes, you really have to be thought through.
Okay, and this is another point. I'm not making anybody unsecure. I'm just saying, from a business point of view, you don't want to have this program where you're taking the oldest and most vulnerable, potentially vulnerable people and putting them in your health insurance plan.
I understand
Right,
that, but I understand that, but for them, the benefit is, I'm kind of comfortable because the this district is finding the policy, they're doing all the negotiations.
But 99% of the employees who work out here around us, they have health plans. They feel comfortable too, and they're not expecting their employer to foot the bill for them and take the
Okay.
risk for them.
Wait,
But Jerry,
wait, can I interrupt for a
go
second?
ahead. Yep.
Please, and this is just a point of order, actually. I would recommend two things. Let's approve this Fund 73 because we have to have it to pay
Fine.
previous commitments by other board members, okay? And that's fine. I also am recommending, because we haven't seen it. This actuary report you talk about, brief it to us. Everyone here who votes, and the admin team, should know what we're paying for this. And then and only then would we even start the discussion. No one's changed anything. So Kyle, no one's changed anything, we're not proposing anything. All we're saying is, we have actually done, this group here, we've done pretty well evaluating things. We've taken our staff into consideration quite a bit. So that's all I'm saying. Let's get the actuary report, find out what it's costing the school, and then at that meeting, however it's supposed to, the right, structure, find out how much money we want to spend on people and for retention.
I would move to approve the setting up of Fund 73 and contracting with Key Benefit Concepts LLC.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Do you want that on the record, Dave, that we be briefed on the actuary study?
Whatever, yeah.
It's ongoing.
Well, we haven't agreed. When was the last time we got briefed on it?
Next month, we'll have a resolution from Fund 73, and at that time, this is the actuary study.
And if I can get the key benefit, or the KBC people, because they can do a presentation, they can do a presentation also on the actuary study, because they're the ones who do it. So they can explain it a lot better than I can.
Yeah, that's why I agree.
You know,
I have one question.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to be, Fund 73 is going to be a revolving account that's going to be invested, an investment company is going to actually handle it, right?
they're actually going to take the money, they will invest it, we'll earn interest in it, everything will stay in that fund. We can take money out of it,
Right.
put in, take out to pay premiums, and
Oh, wait, they manage the investment?
they manage the
So they'll get
investment.
fees from it every year?
That's not my question. That's not my question. My question is that it's important for us to realize that we maintain a base there in case we have years of losses. And that's a common problem with this type of an account. The base is guaranteed to maintain, so.
Okay.
Which goes into the discussion now.
Yeah.
Because the more we give away, the larger the base. The larger the base, the more the taxpayer has to put money in.
Or if we have a favorable investment year,
That's like
what happens to those funds?
And
history.
if it works with this investment company, again, we will find this out. But with ADM, who handles our money for our building project and all of that, we don't actually pay fees with them. What it is the amount of money that you make on your interest, basically they take a percentage.
Well, they're getting money, I get it.
That's where you get your fees.
But the part is, Dave, when it's school money, it has to be invested in something that's guaranteed.
Right.
We don't lose
Well,
money.
are we, the only, now that I understand this a little bit more, are we committing to them to manage this money forever?
It won't be
5 years from now,
KBC will not manage this money.
No.
It's an investment firm.
They are just going to set it up, and they will get the investment firm to put the money into them. They are not actually going to be doing this. They are just setting everything up so that we can get this fund with an investment through 66.
And then as a normal investment fund, 5 years from now, if we're not happy, we can transfer and do all the transition and stuff like that. That's okay. It should-
Yes.
We may never change ever in 100 years. I just-
Right,
it's-
but we have that option, yes,
All right.
yes.
So you're contributing X number of dollars per employee or per teacher per year into this fund, right?
Correct.
We're gonna project out how much we're gonna pay out 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years, we're gonna put some away now to pay those bills in the future. That's what we wanna do.
And we have not been doing that in the past, so.
We just
Right now, we've been
pay
paying
our
as you go, but we haven't had the large influx of people that
It's
we're
also,
going
we
to
have
have.
4 teachers retiring at the same time, and that's a bigger commitment of funds than we've ever had. When our building and grounds gentleman retired, we've been paying his bill. When our former bookkeeper retired, we've been paying hers. We've been doing it, just we've been doing it on Fund 10. It'd be nice to get us up in Fund 73 so we got ourselves covered for future expenses, for things we're incurring now.
We have to do that.
Okay. Any other questions on that? If not, we'll move on to the second reading of 2 policies. May I have a motion?
I would move to approve the second reading of new policy 6112, cash management of grants, and 8462.01, threats of violence.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. You'll see a change in legislative matters to the agenda. It's no longer reports it will, if she wishes, continue to do her report on those outside committees. What we will discuss under legislative matters are legislative matters. So if we want to talk about sending a message to Kitchens or Jock or someone up the line about something in education, we want to communicate that to them on education bills. If those groups that we belong to that are lobbying the Ferry Coalition or whatever, if they're going to be lobbying for certain things, we'll discuss. Are those beneficial for Sevastopol? Do we want to participate in those? Do we not want to? So all we have this month, though, is Mr. Lidkey met with Senator Jock.
I met with him on Monday, invited the superintendents from Door and Kewaunee County. Dan Tronagle from Sturgeon Bay is the only one that can make it. We discussed when the ESSER funds run out, then we're going to hit a cliff, we're going to fall off with funding, and if he had any plans of helping us with that. He didn't give any solid answers on. So I asked him how much I should budget for fuel for next year. He didn't know either. I told him those are the challenges we're having, and he ought to be thinking about high-cost transportation aid and sparsity aid, because those direct aids would help out districts that have high-cost transportation or little population per number of square miles. So they didn't have any real answers, and it was nice that he came out for the first time, and he said he'd come back in about 6 months. So.
Good.
And I would like to add, I met this morning, this noon, with the Ferry Coalition Board, and we met with the Wisconsin House.
So I don't have this as an agenda item.
All right.
So maybe you can report that next month. Put it on the agenda for next month. Then we'll move to the student education book study. Would you like to talk on that? Would Jerry like to talk on that?
Well, I
Two of you
can
talk on
start,
that?
but we've discussed this in the past, and now that we have Mr. Schaefer joining us and the election over with Jeff joining us, we kind of have our team here, and
I can start off.
go ahead.
So this is the orientation for you, okay? Remember in the interview process, I asked you if you ever heard of student, and you said you did. So, from my background, there's a group called Student Group, which has now been bought out by, who's the other group that owns the bank? Huron, thank you. So, students worked for a long time in the healthcare world of really is probably pretty common sense, but it's based upon mission, vision, and values, and we kind of going from good to great. So, the thing is, anybody can be a good institution, but you want to be a great institution. And they work with you on tools and techniques of how to do that. And we lived with them in my background, but probably 12 years. And he was always being rated 1, 2, or 3 best critical access hospital in the United States for year after year after year. And the important ones, our employee satisfaction scores are always in the 90th percentile. Okay, which is so in working with them, they would have a big meeting and they would have some people from schools there, and we talked about how they had a division to work with education. So when I came on the board, after a few meetings, I talked about, has anybody ever heard of Studer and da-da-da-da-da. And we've got those discussions going. Mr. Ruki has talked to some of the representatives, and then we got books about probably just after COVID started, maybe.
Yeah, it was right, I think it was right before COVID started.
Yeah, and so COVID really put the brakes on it, and then the building project kind of was for a school our size. And so Lisa and I and Kyle, we attended a video conference one time, one of their meetings here, which started bringing a lot back memories for me. It's really, and it's not cheap, but it's really, if you really want to become an excellent organization, and that would be now an excellence in education, and you think you can do it on your own, you cannot do it on your own. You need somebody outside who's got outside set of eyes, techniques, proven techniques, and comes and coaches you on how to take your organization to the next level. How they do that in education, I'm not fully understanding, but I can tell you some things they would do, which are probably the same. Your story, when you interview with us, your story about the bus going to the baseball games, that would be a Studer technique. A Studer technique would be saying hello to each. When you come across another person in the hallway, you say hello to them. If someone is a visitor here, you take them to the place. You would not just give them directions. You would be really into scorecards, keeping track of where you are, supported by objectives and plans to go forward. Big emphasis on the input from staff. They're recognizing that probably some of the best ideas come from the bottom of the staff, not from the CEO's office. So where I worked, we solicited over an excess of, I think it was 2,100 suggestions a year from our employees, which was tracked. There's feedback given back to the people who give those. They're told where those suggestions are. They're told if they're implemented. They're told and congratulated. They're told if they're not implemented, why they're not implemented. So there's a constant feedback. And people don't care if it's not implemented, just that you've taken the time. We do other things where supervisors would handwrite notes to the staff, telling them congratulations, I like this, stuff like that. So that's all, but the underneath of it is a change of the culture of an organization going forward, based upon a whole bunch of stuff, meeting skills, listening skills, organizational skills, but setting it up with the idea that we're going to take this organization, take it to a new level. So there's a lot of similarities between healthcare and education. I think that's why Studer put together a branch. So that's kind of where I see it. Did I miss something?
But it is expensive.
That is expensive.
Right, so I was thinking we could start with just a book study and read it and go at that, but I know what you just said about we can't do it alone,
Yeah, a system I used to work for, cut out Studer, that figured they could make a budget change, and their employee perception, their employee satisfaction scores are now in the 14th percentile. They were in the 60th percentile. And they really can't do it on their own.
Well, I would argue that some successful leaders have been able to do this regularly. This body of work that they do to help people, where you get this data is you go and capture successful leaders and you roll it into a form of that. So I mean, I would argue some people could do it. I think in the education world and at a school and the history of how all the people come together, I agree there's help to get outside. There's a good to get outside help on how to do that. And the only thing regarding the cost, and maybe not this ultimate cost, but the other thing that I think is important is that I think investing in our staff, and I think a lot of good organizations invest in their staff, and so some type of, this is one, but some type of leadership training at every level, I think, is showing investment in our staff. So that's why I support some spending of money, but I don't know what that right answer is, but I think that's why I thought it was an interesting package.
Has there been anything to date internally that would match this type of effort?
Internally, I'd say no. We had the strategic planning with CISA 7 pre-COVID, and that got shut down pretty quick with COVID. that work was, yeah, I mean, everything shut down at that point.
Do you think we have the expertise internally to initiate something like this?
I think we have pockets, I don't think we have a.
Okay, that's just a question.
Right, no, I think if we're all focused with Studer, I think we could change. Culture's really difficult to change. I've been here 5 years and I am still not satisfied with where we are culturally around here. I think it's gotten better. I still think it can go a next step. I don't know. I feel like the pockets would be my best word. We got
Okay.
spots. Mr. Hills, you've been here 4 years.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think the other thing that an outside organization does is that they've got the time to be able to do it, that, you know, even if we had the expertise in-house, I don't know that we have the time to be able to dedicate
They
to it,
ask
so we can do it.
employees to, I mean, staff members to do it. Okay.
Well, and with that time there, we are part of the organization, so sometimes you can't see the trees because of, because of the forest, because of the trees. Well, we're some of the trees, so everything Mr. Hills does is great, everything I do is great. Well, no, it's not necessarily that's true, but that's our perspective. So having an outside group to be more focused on the large picture would be helpful.
And I think maybe you thought the book study, because
I thought it was a starting point.
it would be
for
a
us.
start for the board to understand the program and understand, okay, do we want to invest the money in this? Will this help us go forward?
Who would be part of this book study? I don't know, the board or the
At the
admin
board
team?
and the admin team. I would have, Ms. Margraf is not here tonight, I'd have her in, and us right here.
And it would take, it's going to take a little effort on our part. We'll have to schedule time during a regular meeting or maybe a special meeting once a month to discuss the portions in the book that we're going through.
Well, in the past, we've had board goals as an agenda item, with school board self-eval tonight on the agenda.
We could
I
use-
see this would parlay and fit right in with that.
Yeah, I think that read the book is just to acquaint you with what the whole process is. What I think needs to be done is, because the board really stays out of this process, we get the results of the process. If you begin setting up scorecards of this is the goals we have and this is how we're going to get there, and we just sit back and look at as the reports flow in from the staff, how we're doing with whatever. I think I'd recommend, is there's a Studer meeting coming up sometime this fall in Milwaukee? Is that right?
I don't know.
Something like that. I think Colin and some of the staff and Lisa should go off to that and rub shoulders with other educators and see what it's all about, what's going on, and then come back and tell us what you're interested in.
I guess what intrigues me about this is the culture, mission, vision, and values, because I think if you ask 5 people are going to have a different opinion of what the culture is here. They're going to have a different opinion of what the vision is, and they're going to have a different opinion of what is valued across the board. And to have some way for everyone to be on the same plane, thinking those same things, could only benefit this organization, benefit the students going forward.
If you get a mission statement down to, the rule of thumb is a mission statement should be no more than like 10 to 12 words, so that everybody can spout it off. If you really get into the mission and drive the mission, it becomes a very, very powerful tool that drives all of your decisions.
See, in our strategic planning, we came up with a mission statement, but it was a healthy paragraph.
Yeah, that's not a mission statement.
No, I'm telling you, that's what we did with strategic planning. That's what we ended up with, because we wanted to include everybody and everything, and we baked her all in there, and it's a healthy paragraph.
And then remember, we went back and we determined that to provide students with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary to be lifelong learners and responsible citizens is our mission.
Well, here's
Those other 2 things would be a vision statement more so, but we've not talked
So
about it.
if you go down the road of like a scooter program, you'll learn, you'll develop something new, it's a whole new day, and you're going forward. Now, the real responsibility for something like this rests with Kyle. Kyle makes or breaks it.
That was my own, first of all, I fully support it, and I agree, but my concern, like for me to do it, and I could, I mean, but I don't make the day-to-day decisions around here, and we shouldn't, right? So, and the communication style is good, and some, you know, and quite frankly, with my background, I've been through classes like this a lot, so I might, it'd be cool to revisit it, I guess, but the real is a commitment to the school leadership team and any staff members or handpicked staff members, and that time commitment. And then also just do the money to support it.
So the book study, I wanted so you guys had a background and awareness, because obviously Jerry's had a deep dive in it, and others you are hearing about for the first time. So I would like to get at least a base understanding of the book study for you guys. Yeah, I know it's making you do the work on something, but at least get a book study, I feel, to have an understanding of what we're talking about here.
I think that's
Good.
And what is it's expensive, we talked about that. Can you remind me what the
It's
cost?
like $50,000 or $60,000, right? And so that's when I cringe and go, okay, I can aid for that, you know?
Yeah.
When I think budget, I was thinking, okay, can I get our first year helping kids?
Maybe
Sometimes, yeah.
hire Jerry for it.
Well, we can do but that's why the book study, we can do less, right?
Well, at least, well, before you make a big commitment like that, you all say, oh yeah, I know what this is, and this is worth our efforts, and yes, we're going, or, you guys can do some of this on your own.
I
or-
think I'm excited for you to get here for a while with some of your background and some of your history and some of your stuff that you did on the side too. I think. So I think my point is really changing, it's very slow and get everyone to learn their leadership. Spending 50 grand on something is cool, but it doesn't flip a switch. Your leadership it's a 10-year commitment to reiterative training, consistent leadership, that kind of stuff. So that's why book study, let's do the book study, and then for you, the people making the daily decisions, what do you need to help you? So I fully support it, but I don't know that paying 50 grand for them to come in, you know, what is it, a short run period, right? You know, what's the student group, how long do they come in?
We're still, well, they've been at the hospital now for probably 10 years.
Right.
Well, what does the
But what
50
that-
grand doesn't cover 10 years?
Huh?
Here is it
Well, let me just say, it's the same thing for here as any place. As I described to our employees 14 years ago, we're on a journey to excellence. There's no end to it. And we will never come to the end of it. Because if you really are constantly improving, you're building on what you've already got to a new level. Now as you go from the 50th percentile to the 60th percentile, that's easy. When you get up to the 85th percentile, to move your organization to the 87th percentile is difficult. But if you're really committed to that, that's what because you want to get as high as you can. And I firmly believe just by acts of location, by size, dedication of staff, this organization has the potential of being a first-class star example of public education.
So the question is, the question isn't, are we going to do this? The question is, does the board want to participate in a book study regarding the Studer education model to gain knowledge of it?
I look at it sometimes, the board is, sometimes, a lot of times, and most of the time, is an outside entity. And that we do not, other than the fact that board members have children here at school, we are not, as Dave alluded to, involved in the day-to-day activities.
Sure.
And it's sometimes difficult for us to go through something like this and then try to impose it on staff. I think it's something the staff has to accept, the administration has to accept. As a board, I feel somewhat remote from the whole process.
I would agree.
I agree with both of you, except what I think what the book does is gives you at least an understanding of where they're going to take the organization.
But I think administration will really really should take the initiative on this. If they feel it's something that,
Oh, you're right.
that they feel, I think the board sometimes, we're kind of remote.
Rather than a book study, do we just give everyone a copy of the book here, and then you guys read it at your leisure, and then you know what we're talking about?
I guess that would work.
Rather than sitting here going, okay, next month we're gonna review chapters 1 through 3, and then 5 through 5, right?
Right, yeah, I would, yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
think that'd be,
And I think
I
the
think that's a
bottom,
better way to go about it.
I think the bottom line is whether it's the student or whether, I mean, I think I've heard Kyle say he's been here 5 years,
There's
he's seen
different
the culture change in the right direction. It's not where the needle needs to be yet. We have a new administrator here tonight that's starting, taking over. The team will be complete, I guess, and the new team will be, and if, Kyle, you think that the Studer is the right way to get the ship to where it needs to be, then we do it, but.
So thankfully, we have a motion to buy the books for everybody, and everyone promises to look at it. Read it.
I moved to buy the tutor books for the team defined by Kyle and the other team.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion
I
carries.
suspect out to show real interest in it, they may have enough laying around their offices.
touch it really bad.
Okay, committees. Jeff is going to join the athletic committee. Jeff Isaacson has an interest there. I am going to drop off building and grounds, and Jeff Isaacson is going to join building and grounds. Jerry, do you wish to continue on communication committee?
Yeah, please.
Okay. The finance committee is the board as a whole. Do we continue to leave lunch committee on our list?
I would say so, because next year lunches are going back to the old system of free and reduced and people paying compared to free for everybody.
Negotiations, Dick and Dave, do you wish to remain there?
Good. We make a good balance, you gotta be there.
Oh, negotiations, yeah, whatever.
The personnel committee is the board as a whole. The strategic planning committee is actually the board as a whole. Compensation and benefits, I don't know that we ever had a meeting, but policy committee, policy committee, I didn't know Cindy was on the policy committee. Does anyone else have an interest in the policy committee other than Sue and Jerry? We'll leave that as it is now right now. We had, what was it, equity committee? I would look for, I think we might think about changing the name of that committee to diversity, which may better suit what we need here. I think in that committee's work, it really found that, correct me if I'm wrong, that our main areas of concern would be the Hispanic community and this socioeconomic.
I
So
would add gender to that.
I'm talking about what the committee found to be a real concern in their initial work. So, would anyone object to maybe changing that terminology to the diversity committee?
Good idea.
You want to make a motion to that effect?
I move that we change the wording of the equity committee to diversity committee.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I think Mr. Ward wanted to join that committee.
Sure.
And we'll leave that to your administrators to determine if when we need to meet or how we need to meet, or vote, whatever. Is PTO going? Are they resolving? Are they?
They They may be.
They were looking at dissolving, I don't know if the final decision was made.
I believe they have.
They have.
Yeah, and with that, one of their last meetings, they talked about with the funds that they had in their account, what they plan on doing with that,
And
trying to reach the most things that they've done in the
they
past.
sent checks to many different groups and that within the district, and by mistake, I got their bank statement, and it's minimum of dollars in there, I think it was just interest. So they have pretty much closed their accounts and disbanded the organization as of right now, not to say that it can't be brought back up at some point in time, but the issue they were having is just getting people to participate.
They were looking for someone to step up and take it over.
And it didn't happen, so.
Right.
I guess we'll remove PTO.
I'm just surprised, I think.
You want to leave them on?
No, I would think of
Oh.
that. You're right, Tingle. I just wanted to comment that one of their major fundraisers was a turkey trot, and Tracy Watland did have me forward an email from her asking if any other group was going to take over the turkey trot, and I haven't heard anyone stepped up, but I just was the passer of the message from her to the staff. I haven't heard of anyone. It's quite an endeavor. That's a lot of work for that one-day race. And it seems like, well, it should be pretty simple.
No.
No.
I don't think the PTO is any different than any other booster club or Mighty Pioneers. It's
I'm just surprised though that based upon what you read in the newspapers and see on TV, that there isn't a group of parents that are very interested watching over the direction that the school goes and being active in that, not in the traditional old PTA thing of raffles and quilt shows and stuff like that, but really getting down into the bare bones of being the watchdog of the board regarding academics and other things that.
Yeah, I think these things come and go. I think the current PTA or PTO or whatever it is, just didn't have people to step up. I think there'll be another group of motivated parents. I mean, the elementary has some very motivated parents. Really, that's where Mighty Pioneers and that organization has grown. Some of them are older than elementary kids now, but you know, so that age group will probably follow their kids through. So I think it'll probably start back up again. But right now, there's a lull, and that happens.
They've struggled for some time. It's really fallen on the shoulders of just a few people to do all of the work.
And it's, I don't know that they were really educational watchdogs. It seems to me for a long time it's been a fundraising.
Yeah, I know, but I think there may be another organization.
I think it'll come back because their parents come and go and they get more involved. I think this community's energy is growing, like you said earlier. That park, that town park is full all summer. That's sweet, right? What does that mean? A lot of young kids charging into this building for the elementary and middle school and stuff. So I think something will come back. It's just unfortunate right now it's run its course, I guess, right? That's what Sue was saying.
The people that were doing it were doing a good job. They got burned out, and it got to be a heavy load for a few
Yeah.
people. And recruiting more people
Wasn't working.
wasn't panning out, so.
And that, you know, Brooks brought that as AD. It's hard to get parents to volunteer to hold chains at games or run the scorebooks and stuff, so.
That's how all society is right now.
Right.
It doesn't matter what, I don't care if it's 4-H or whatever it is, you pick it, it's hard to find volunteers.
Yep.
So kudos to Mighty Pioneers for having an
Even paid
amazing.
volunteers.
What?
Even paid volunteers.
Yeah.
Paid volunteers.
Yeah, paid
That's a
volunteers.
talent.
They still don't go.
Casey Andrews calls it voluntold.
Yeah. Keith and Dave, you wish you were in a booster club? Anybody else interested in booster club? Curriculum committee, I think, is really staff development and curriculum are really the same. I've never been to a curriculum meeting.
No, it's always a staff development curriculum committee.
Sevastopol Education Foundation, Dave?
Is anyone interested? I've been on that, but I will admit, I don't know how active they are. I know they donate some money, but I haven't heard many meetings. Most of the meetings have been through the email communications.
They're
So I don't mind continuing it. but I feel I'm letting them down. So if anybody else wants to fire and jump in there, it'd be awesome, but I can stay with them. They keep me on their emails and stuff, but they've just been kind of inactive for a while, years.
Could they keep the whole board appraised of what they're doing? I mean,
Yes, yeah.
If you,
Absolutely.
if you don't want, I will if you don't want to.
Yeah, that would be great.
Do you want
I'm
to?
short on time.
Dick, do you want to?
well, they kind of function as a, I don't want to call them separate, but they're a entity benefit the school. And,
They used to dictate, they used to come, first of all, I would brief everybody, and then every once in a while, they would come and brief the board. So they are very willing to keep the board involved in what's going on. I do believe, based on what we just talked, the activity is rather low right now.
Yeah.
But, the whole wheel, if you go back to what we started up, Sue brought me into it, we started up this wheel, it's really kind of awesome. We just got to get the legwork of fundraising behind it. So I think right now it's a little inactive because for some reason, why in COVID, everyone's just been busy.
this could be an entire board situation where the foundation comes to the board with whatever activities that they're involved in or want to get involved in.
And what exactly is what do they do?
Yeah, so they're kind of inactive pickers. If they were doing something,
Yeah.
it's the insurance guy, Steve, and
Steve Rabach.
Steve Rabach leads it, and Mr. Schowski's wife, and
Tom Wilson's still.
well, I think Tom phased out of it. Tom got out of it.
I think at one time they did some playground, give somebody to
Yeah,
playground.
the playground.
They give those white they
So, yeah,
they pop for those white National Honor Society banners at the kids' graduation.
They were set up, just like these comes and goes. A while back, they were set up years ago by somebody to raise money for the school. And this wheel I refer to in the pioneer history is people can donate money to sports, the arts, music, I mean, every aspect of school. But I think at one point they're more active and now they're a little less active. And I think COVID dampened everybody down. So they could, and actually, if you ask Steve, he would love to come and brief us up on where they're at.
They've done
He
some
loves
very
coming to the
good
board,
things.
but he also doesn't want to bother us. So Dick, if you guys are interested, we could get him. And I guess Lisa, I can tell Steve that keep you in the loop more than me, and then we'll see.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you want the SEF to come to future board meetings that you're asking?
I'll
We'll
talk
talk
to
to Steve.
Robert.
Okay.
David and Jerry on technology, meet and confer, board members will rotate. Town Meeting, Carver County, Jacksonport, Town, Sevastopol. Those are really just to know what initiatives the town might have in play. Right now, Jacksonport is big into internet drop at every door. I don't know what Sevastopol's doing there. So if you have something on them, report it every month. And then Sue is the Wisconsin Association of School Boards delegate. When we get closer to just January, we'll have to pick an alternate delegate. And she's on the CSUB board. And legislative liaison. So is there a motion to approve the committees as we just discussed?
So make a motion to approve the committees we just discussed.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Employee handbook changes for 22-23.
I am looking to change the personal leave. I'd like to keep the same number of days. However, with the number of subs we have, and some of our sub is either an aide or a teacher, we sometimes have difficulty with, folks say there's personal days to the end, and they all want the same day off, and then we end up with a shortage. And current language only address teachers as having 3 out on a day. The support staff, the aides can take as many at one time as possible. So I'd like to change it to the lower language so that we have no more than 4 employees on personal days for aides and teachers, and no more than being 3 teachers, so we don't run into a shortage of our subs. They still have the 2 personal days, but they'd have to plan ahead of time when they take them. The other change would be not the last 2 weeks of the school year, especially when we knock off a couple days for snow at the end. We don't know exactly our last day of school when we start the year, so it'll be a little easier for planning. Mr. Hilbert gave me the recommendation of unused personal days being transferred into sick days. And I didn't put that in there because that's not what I gave the staff the last day of school when I met with them, but that was his email back to me, was, hey, did you ever think about that? And I hadn't thought about it. So he said, well, maybe some people would want to build up their sick days rather than have a personal day one year. He also had another suggestion for the handbook on overload pay. I did not include it because it wasn't part of my agenda or my ideas for it, but I may bring it up when we approve the entire handbook later this summer.
In that first change, I assume the one in bold, do you want to say only use or only one?
Tell me where you're reading.
Personal days would be
Aides may use only one.
That's what current
Teachers
is.
and aides may only use one of their 2 personal days during the month of May.
May use only one, not only use.
That's the language now.
May only use one. How would
No.
you state it?
May use only one.
May use only one. So
Yes,
that's what
I
you,
think that's what you're wanting to say. You're not wanting to say only use as opposed to another verb.
oh, okay.
You're wanting to say
I'm going to switch
only
those 2
one.
words around. Sure.
May-
Yeah.
May use only one.
Yes,
That would go, that
If
would.
only is referring to one, sure.
That would transfer into proposed language too.
Say that again, Dick.
That would transfer into the proposed.
Right,
language.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think the last sentence of, very last sentence in bold, when I read that, I find that confusing. Because you're talking about you're allowed to do 2 days per year, and all of a sudden you say no more than a total of 4 employee personal days for aides. But they're only allowed 2 days, how can you do 4 personal?
4 employees.
Doesn't say that.
Okay,
It's
so
4
how would you
employee
word it?
personal days.
No more than a total of 4 employee personal days for aides or teachers will be granted for the same date.
So,
for employees.
4 employees, so you could have 3 teachers and an aide that day, because it's on the same date.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, I think that needs to be.
Yeah,
Yes.
how would you state it?
no more than total of 4 employees. They take.
Employees, so
personal day. Yeah.
apostrophe, yes.
Yes.
So, okay, no more than a total of 4 employees.
Can take a personal
They
day,
take a personal day.
just break, can't take a personal day on the same day.
Carl, you got it for the motion?
A total of 4 employees personal day.
No more than a total of 4 employees can take a personal day on the same day. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's what you're trying to, I think
That's what we're trying to say, but I also want to have it in there, it's 3 teachers, because a teacher's sub is more difficult to find than a
You put it-
aide sub.
You can put 3 teachers in a parentheses after that.
And you do want to keep aides and teachers in there, because 4 employees could be,
Yeah, we don't worry about the
Sure.
cooks and custodians.
right, or the
That's
support
the-
staff,
Right.
secretarial staff, so you need to keep aides and teachers in there.
Okay, so let's read the sentence.
Total of 4, no more than a total of 4 employees
Who's that math teacher?
may
Yeah, where's that math
take
teacher?
personal days.
A total of 4 aides and teachers, with 3, no more than 3 being teachers.
But I think you just gotta flip the sentence around. It's no more than a total of 4 employee personal days will be granted for the same date for aides and teachers, with no more than 3 being teachers.
Right.
Okay.
Did you get that, Carl?
Yep. Yep.
You so glad you came here?
Are there any, do you have any other comments on those? Does the board have any other questions on those?
Any comment on Mr. Hilbert's suggestion of you having unused personal days roll over to sick days?
You get sick days, right?
they receive 10 sick days a year.
All right.
Right now, if you don't use personal day, you lose them.
You
You
lose
don't use them, you lose
Well,
them.
how does that
Use
affect?
them or lose them.
It's, if they roll them over, it affects our future liability.
If you don't use
Well,
them,
I
it's just
don't,
like your,
I guess like when any of these benefits, just for my, we're filling our staff. And I know everyone is struggling right now, but I mean, I think our staff is pleased with how the school treats them. If we were falling apart with our staff, then we better increase our benefits. But I think we also are in a place where every other person in this county probably isn't getting this type of stuff. So that's why I always ask the question to at least evaluate it. So I think if you want to do this, we just look at it or dig into it, but I'm not ready to be personally to support changing that now. Because it does, it rolls over more days, more
I didn't
vacation.
put it into my recommended language, because I just wanted to take care of making sure we had enough subs to man the building. That was the feedback I got from a staff member, and I told them I would share it, because I've been told sometimes I don't listen to staff enough, so I'm listening.
Because now you take.
I'm glad you brought it up, but I'm just sharing my opinion.
I don't like taking promises, taking from another and making another promise. If you don't, if you get 10 sick days, you get personal days, then use your personal days, use your sick days. I don't think they should roll into one or the other.
Then
They're two separate things.
Then you want to approve the language as proposed.
If you want to
with
drill
the
into it
English
more in
changes
depth,
we got.
but I don't think I have not.
Okay.
Question always is, do you have staff members that are going to use 2 personal days regardless?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you do, okay. So the incentive then is for those people to be on the job, to be doing their work, and the incentive then is to have those 2 days transferred into their sick leave account. Or do you have people, or you do not have staff members that typically will, I don't want to abuse the system and only use it for personal, legitimate but personal days?
If you're going to be melding sick days and personal days, then you need to look at a whole new system and go to PTO. These are the number of days you get off per year. I don't care if it's for sick. I don't care if it's for vacation. I don't care if it's
But Jerry, if you do that with teachers, they're here for 185 or 187 days. You don't want to say 10 days to do whatever, because they'll be gone 10 days a year, some of them. And then we'll have more difficulty with.
Well, they need to refine it to local conditions, but then you take sick days and.
But we don't want to go down that slope, do we? To go that road, we have the system in place.
Because if you go PTO, they're going to say, I got it, I can use it at will, and they're going to, and then we'll have.
Well, you just said they use these personal
They
days.
use the 2 personal days, but if you roll personal, 2 personal and 10 sick, you got 12 days all of a sudden down to 187.
That's a long time to be sick.
12 out of 187, and folks won't worry about being sick someday, they'll use their time.
So, does your sick policy require you use more than 2 in a row? You get to have the doctors?
Yes.
You do.
Yeah, we require doctors note on the 3rd day. So that's why I didn't put the unused personal days rolling sick, I'm just telling you what was brought to me. And so I'm recommending my proposed language with the changes in the discussion for clarity, which Carl's recorded.
Got it.
Would you like to read the motions back, Carl?
But it hasn't been a motion yet.
Oh.
Well, what I have right now is I have a motion to approve changes in the employee handbook for 22-23 as presented. And we presented and made changes, so that's the new presentation.
Yeah, so we just have to vote on it?
We just got to make a motion and vote on it.
Does anyone wish to make a motion?
I move to approve the proposed language of 2022 to 2023 for personal leave as presented.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, last month we decided to put, changing the day of the monthly meeting. as Thursday runs into a lot of school activities that people and administrators like to attend. So does anyone have a suggestion on a day that might be better?
Now for Carl preparing the budget, the early part of the month doesn't work so well. He needs.
I said I can be ready by the second week of the month to have the.
I think we were talking more the day of the week.
What day of the week?
Day of the week versus the.
The day of, we were talking the day.
Like, right, we're always on Thursdays.
Right, no, on Thursdays, right.
So later in the month, number one, it's
Well-
always gonna be later in the month, check, and then, so third or fourth week, and then,
Does someone have a suggestion on the date, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
How
Friday?
did Wednesdays look in people? I just think of like, you know, you mentioned the sporting event, like Thursdays, there's, in high school level at least.
Wednesday is good for me.
Wednesday's typically a church night, there's not a lot of like activities scheduled, like sporting events or things that would pull some people.
My kids are gonna get to church with them.
I don't know, I just throw that down there because I know that's a night that I don't have,
Okay.
except for in the summer, then it's softball night, but anyway, that's.
There's two, everybody else?
Yeah,
The reason
either,
we want to change it
Up
is-
till Tuesday, do I hear?
Pardon me?
The reason why we're going to want to change this is,
I don't know.
Often when on Thursday nights, we've had people that would like to be at a school activity rather than sitting in here because they have children, grandchildren involved, and there's been times when the principal should be on duty rather than sitting here, but
Tuesday?
so was there a night of the week where there are no, there are never.
Wednesday's the best night, and that Mondays would be the second best.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, bigger mandates.
I mean, Mondays are good too, I'm just saying, like, those are typically non-conflicting.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are.
There's
are-
conferences too, like, that are later in the week versus like a Thursday or so, I mean, Kyle.
I kind of like Wednesday. We used to, there was a time when we met on Mondays, and a former administrator said it was really hard to come back from the weekend and have the school board meeting and then the rest of the week.
I agree.
I agree with
That's
that.
that's on my Monday, goes.
I mean, Mondays are bad in my world, just,
Yeah.
that's real bad, I think, but that's not about me, so.
Is there a motion? Does someone want to start with a motion?
Is the activities on Tuesday nights and Tuesday?
Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday,
Tuesday,
Thursday,
Friday.
Friday.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, your busiest nights, then Monday, and then Wednesday.
I make a motion to go to Wednesday. The
Second.
second Wednesday, or
The
third
second
Wednesday.
Wednesday is always CISA board.
So third
Can we
Wednesday,
Like
keep
the same week.
Let's go to
Just
the
keep the same
fourth, or
week.
the third Wednesday of the month, like now we're.
Yeah, the third Wednesday.
That's fine. School board convention in January is always the third week of January, correct?
Well, that's one time.
But
Well,
then,
We sometimes change those dates. Was there a motion?
Motion to go
Was
to,
there a second?
Well, what
I
way,
second, Wednesday.
Wednesday, or you making it the third Wednesday?
third Wednesday.
Third Wednesday, okay.
No, second.
Okay, got it.
Discussion or questions?
Starting when?
Next month.
Thanks.
July.
I know people who can change it if it doesn't work out for everybody.
Oh, that's fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Renewing the WIA membership. Kind of a standard
So I move that we
thing.
renew our WIAA membership.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Open enrollment.
Currently, if we accept one member of a family, we accept all siblings. This is now causing a problem in our special ed department because our special ed numbers have risen, and including our 504 plans. And we're putting a burden on those staff members and their workload. And so we received this from DPI, all schools did, on Monday the 6th, saying, hey, you can't deny someone who's special ed if you're accepting a sibling, if that's your current system, which it is the current system. I hate dividing families up, I just think it's awful. But in order to support our special ed program and keeping that healthy for the students we are serving, my recommendation is to no longer accept a sibling if we accept one, And if the families want to split themselves, the families can split themselves, that's on them to make the best choice, although I don't like it. That's what I think we have to do. I covered that, Carl?
With this situation, we did have, in our regular open enrollment, we had two families that had two different children, that one was special ed, one wasn't. And when I sent out the letters before I got this, we did split them. And when we got this letter, we went back to the families and said, we've been informed we can't do this, both of your children have been approved, and both of those, in both families, both kids are coming open enrollment.
But
So-
that's maxing out our special ed program. So
Yes.
I'd like to make the switch tonight. Oh, go ahead.
So if I could also add though that that also impacts regular classrooms, where you have, you're at the ceiling, you might have 50 kids in that grade level, but because we set the sibling in second grade, now our fifth grade goes over that cap. So it's not just the special ed
That's
department, it's also the.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
I was side, I always interpreted in my background, policies are in place for a reason. But there are times there's an exception. That's my understanding. Policies guide us but every once in a while there's an exception. And I'm just clarifying that that is not how schools are run, because I would agree that in this case, we should have made the exception to our policy and said, our class is full, and to make, because we're not gonna break out another classroom and hire a teacher and get a new building, So my only point is, if we don't have that flexibility, then I agree with changing policy. But
I made this recommendation about 4 years ago, and now I want to change it back the other way because it's not working for us.
Right, okay. And that's fine too.
I hate dividing up families.
But right, I mean, right, policy is not a law. We can't break law, but policies, but I agree with changing it, so it's just easier for execution.
Well, and the thing of it is, with this coming down from DPI, the way our policy stands right now, we have to bring in all kids.
Right, that's why I bring it to you tonight,
Right.
to change
To
it.
change it back to where, we go grade by grade no matter what.
I would make the motion to support the change in our open enrollment policy.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have the school psychologist agreement.
That's why I had to go back and tell the family that we had to change.
The rates on here are 20 to 25 days. Last year was 15 to 20, so we're increasing it. The dollar amount that Mr. Warner would like would be from $400 a day to $450. We'd use ESSER funds for this increase of services.
I would move to approve the contract for Mr. Stephen Warner for school psychologist services.
Second?
Questions or discussion?
What kind of background checks do you do on professional?
He's licensed through DPI.
That's all?
He works
Well,
for
then you
the
get, they do a
schools.
background check every 5 years, and then we do a new employee background check as well.
So you do a background check?
But in order to be licensed, he has to pass the background check too.
And for a day, that's like, what, he's here 7 hours or something like that?
Yeah, so when you say, well, he's here, it's a full school day.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. To accept the resignation of Ann Fleur as track coach.
Move to approve the resignation of Ann Plore for track coach.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Kristen Foss is an aide.
Move to approve the resignation application from Kirsten Foss.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
One comment, Kristen Foss may end up student teaching here this next semester.
Teaching?
Student teacher.
Student
Student
teaching,
teaching.
student teaching.
Other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The rescission of the new hire, Sarah Wright, music teacher.
Had something.
Means we offer a
We
contract.
approved her in April, we sent her a contract, then May 16th, she sent me an email saying she's not coming.
Make motion to approve the resignation of the new hire, Sarah. Rescission.
Don't ask me how to spell it, but Matthew.
Is that right?
Second.
Questions or discussion? Give him a break, he can do new math. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Resignation of Janelle Hollings as the high school science teacher.
Recommend acceptance of the resignation of Janelle Hollingshead.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resignation of Robin Coparis, an aide.
Move to approve the resignation of Robin Coparis, aide.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carried. And the resignation of Nick DeYoung as middle school football coach.
Make motion to approve the resignation of Nick Young, middle school football coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you to all of those people for their past service. Then we have the varsity volleyball coaches who are reorganizing. Varsity coach, the head coach going to assistant, and the assistant going to
I
head.
recommend we approve the recommendation of the two volleyball coaches for the recommendation of reorganizing the structure of that coaching staff.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Just, as I assume the AD's on board with this, has come through her?
Yeah, because she gave me the letter. Yeah.
They built a great program, so it's great.
It's a good transition.
It's a good transition. It's great they can work that out. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
I'll make sure you note that
Yeah,
Keith Oakland abstained.
so you do not have to, since you took that on regular meeting, you do not have to discuss that in,
Yeah,
well, it's okay, you could do it one way or the other, but
Right, we covered it now, so we don't have to.
We're not doing it in closed
on the
session.
option, but make sure you note that.
right, in the minutes, I'll note that it's taken care of in open session. Huh? Oh, you abstain?
Abstain.
Okay, I got it.
You know, there's a fake factor also.
Right. I wondered about that.
recognition. Mr. Ward asked
Oh,
for
yes,
this to be on the agenda.
I think it'd be appropriate for the board to go on record thanking Adam Bear for his numerous years of service to our school, his dedication to our students, and his hard work during the time here. And we wish him best wishes of his new adventures.
That's good point.
Awesome, great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm proud as hell now.
Is that a motion?
He'll listen to the video.
Oh, okay.
That would conclude our regular business this evening, and we will take a motion to convene to executive session.
I make a motion.
There's a motion that we didn't vote on.
Well, that, we were just talking about, does he just record
Was
that?
that a motion?
That was a motion.
How does it get in the minutes? That's the question.
I make a motion.
To recognize Mr. Bear's
Right.
service to
Right,
the
and somebody said-
district.
okay.
Okay, so that's a
Oh, that was a motion, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Second?
Other questions, discussion, or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Now, I will take a motion
I
to
make a motion to convene the executive session.
Second.
roll call vote. Dick?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried at 9:23 PM. We are back in open session at 10 PM, and we will first look for a motion for the music and choir teacher.
I make a motion to approve the hiring of Trent Larson as the music choir teacher.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The high school science teacher.
Move to approve Craig Carrier as a high school chemistry and physics teacher.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The high school math teacher.
I would move to approve the hiring of Rebecca Liu for high school math teacher.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The special education aide.
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Bridget Isaacson for special education lead.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And
You
Jeff
should
will
note
note,
that- yeah.
he'll note that he is abstaining. Middle school girls basketball coach.
Move to approve the hire of Jamie Keene as middle school girls basketball coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. JV boys basketball coach.
I'll make a motion to approve Jamie Keene as the
Chris Irwin, this is the JV boys.
Oh, GC boys. Do I just skip one?
Did you get the Jamie Keene motion on middle
Dick.
school girls basketball?
Dick did the JV.
Oh. I'm behind it somewhere.
Well, the varsity volleyball's scratched because I was taking care of it in open session
Oh, this
before.
was right.
Yeah.
So did we have a motion on middle school boys? No?
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of Chris Irwin as JV boys basketball coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
So Kyle, how many positions you still have open?
For teaching, 0. For aides, I'm not sure. I'll meet with Melissa Margraf on Monday to map that out. But teaching, we are fully staffed at this point.
Very good.
So our next meeting will not be July 21st. It will be July 20th. Wednesday, July 20th.
Same time.
7 o'clock.
And I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried at 10:03 PM.